Yes, you just made my day brighter by being here. Subscribe and let's light up the whole week. Let's get started. You wouldn't believe it, but there was this little twist of the key in the lock, the kind that barely showed any care. And then the front door swung wide open. You could hear those heels clacking on the hardwood, echoing through the place like they were taunting. Vanessa waltzed in, sort of giggling to herself and shaking her head like she had her own private joke going on. Meanwhile, I stayed right where I was, just sitting on the couch in the darkness, watching it all. Vanessa's been throwing around that girls' night out excuse for what feels like ages, and trust me, her stories have been getting less believable while she gets a bit more brazen. At the beginning, at least she tried to look a bit sorry for coming in late. But now, nope, she walks in like she's ruling the place, treating me like I'm just some piece of the decor waiting to be ignored. Her dress looked like it went through a wringer, her hair was all tangled, and her perfume? Well, it was fighting a losing battle with a cologne that was definitely not mine. But the real cherry on top? Her underwear had mysteriously disappeared. She casually kicked off her heels and tossed her purse on the counter like it was nothing, sighing dramatically. Even in the near darkness, I caught that smirk. It was like she was daring me to comment. I said, "You're home late," keeping my voice steady. She didn't even blink. Instead, she stretched like she was shaking off a rough day. "Oh, calm down, it's only—" She glanced at the wall clock, 2:47 a.m. She laughed. "All right, maybe a bit late." I kept quiet, letting the silence speak for me. She sighed as if she was the one having a hard time. "Seriously, don't give me that look," she said, flipping on the living room light and squinting at me with this entertained expression. "You're acting like I just rolled out of some stranger's bed." Still, I held my silence. Didn't need to say a word. Vanessa rolled her eyes and headed for the kitchen. I heard her digging through the fridge, a bottle cap popping off, and then a long drink of water. She came back still wearing that smirk. "Do you really have an issue with me having a life?" she taunted. "Babe, sorry if you don't get it, but we women need to let loose. We go out, have fun, maybe overdo it on drinks. Big deal." She took another sip and crossed her arms like it was no biggie. "So, is that why you came back without any underwear?" I asked. Her smirk? It slipped for just a heartbeat. Then she laughed out loud. "Oh, come on, are you seriously checking if I have panties on?" She chuckled and shook her head. "You're so insecure, babe. Really, so insecure." I clenched my jaw. "So where'd they go?" I pressed. She just gave a nonchalant shrug. "Beats me. Maybe left them in an Uber, at the club, or maybe in the bathroom when I got changed." There it was, a tiny crack in her confidence. But she quickly masked it, letting her lips curl into that wicked smile, dropping an oops. That little word? It ignited something inside me. She was toying with me and enjoying every moment. I inhaled deeply, trying to keep my face unchanged. "So this is your normal now? Coming home half-dressed, smelling like someone else's cologne?" She let out a groan, rolling her eyes once more. "Oh my God, stop being such a drama queen. You really think something went down? Listen to yourself." She pushed off the counter and sauntered towards me, moving like she was on stage. She stopped just inches away, her smug grin looking right at me. "Listen, babe," she said, drawing out each word as if I needed a slow explanation. "I went out. I danced. I had drinks. I enjoyed myself. End of story. And here you are, sulking like a jealous little kid. Maybe you should try having a bit of fun rather than just obsessing over me." My fist balled up. She wasn't even pretending anymore. Vanessa tilted her head, eyes searching my face for any reaction. Then she gave a dramatic sigh and patted my cheek. "You're adorable when you're angry," she teased. "Maybe if you weren't such a dull one, I wouldn't have to go for a girls' night to unwind." That was the breaking point for me. I jumped to my feet all of a sudden, and she stepped back, her confident grin starting to wobble. I stood there, eyes locked on hers, letting the weight of the moment really hit, making sure she understood that any control she thought she had over me was out the window. She let out a sigh and folded her arms again. "Oh, come on, now you're just acting weird. Gonna sulk in silence all night?" I turned my back and headed up the stairs. Her voice chased me. "Seriously, babe? Are you for real? Don't be childish." I didn't say a word. I just went to my room and clicked the door shut behind me. Inside, my heart was racing, and I knew it was time to quietly exit her world. She had no idea, not even the slightest clue, that this was the very last night she'd get to belittle me. By morning, I'd be gone. No notes, no messages, nothing. Just a loud absence. And when it would finally hit her what she threw away, it would be too late. At 9:30 a.m. sharp, her phone alarm went off, buzzing angrily on the nightstand. Vanessa mumbled in annoyance as she turned over, burying her face deeper into the pillow that still smelled of last night's alcohol and sweat. She couldn't care less, the memories of how she ended up in bed hazy and unimportant. After a few minutes of ignoring the persistent alarm, she finally stretched and lazily reached for her phone. The sudden light from the screen made her blink hard. No missed calls, no texts. She chuckled quietly. So he's doing the silent treatment? Real mature. Turning onto her back, she took a deep breath and glanced over. The other side of the bed, empty. No husband. No sign he had been there overnight. He's just being overly dramatic, she dismissed the thought, shrugging it off as she kicked the covers away and got up. Her head throbbed a bit from last night's escapades, but it didn't bother her. She felt she'd earned that night out. Being married didn't mean chained. If he had a problem, that was on him, not her. She dragged herself to the bathroom, splashed some cold water on her face, and caught her reflection in the mirror. Eyeliner smeared, hair a tangled mess, lips still puffed from yesterday's fun. A mischievous grin spread on her face. Yep, she'd had a good time. With a hint of satisfaction, she headed downstairs, fully expecting to see him pouting over a mug of coffee like a sulky teenager. But as she entered the kitchen, it was disturbingly calm. No whiff of coffee, no clatter of dishes, nothing. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. She frowned, glancing at the counter for his keys. Gone. His wallet, not there. His work phone, nowhere in sight. An uneasy feeling crept up her spine. Mark, she called out, only to be met with silence. She searched the living room, empty, checked the garage. His car was missing. That earlier confidence crumbled fast. With nerves beginning to fray, she picked up her phone. Oh my God, are you seriously pouting? Get a grip. But there was no response, and her call shot straight to voicemail. Annoyed, she tried the location tracker, a feature she always claimed to hate but secretly found useful. When the app finally opened, it mocked her with location unavailable. Her stomach twisted uneasily. Another try led to the same result. Vanessa breathed out heavily, trying hard to shake the troubling sensation creeping over her. He's just being overly dramatic, she kept saying to herself. Throwing a fit, she went about her morning, making breakfast like nothing was wrong, scrolling through her phone, though her eyes kept jumping to the door every so often. But by noon, her irritation shifted to something else, rising panic. She called him again but got voicemail once more. As the clock struck 2 p.m., she turned her search to social media, only to find that all his accounts had been wiped. Even his work profiles were gone. Fear was clawing at her now, relentless. She wasn't oblivious. She understood what all these signs were pointing at. But still, part of her refused to accept it. It couldn't be true that he had just left her like that. After 2 restless nights, Vanessa was running on empty. No matter how many times she told herself it didn't bother her, her body had other plans, tensing up at every little sound and twist in her gut. All she could do that evening was try to reach out to his pals, but nobody answered her calls, or maybe they just saw who it was and didn't bother. Her texts were marked as read but went ignored. Even the group chats, where she once chatted freely for years, went dead silent. When she tried calling Mark's family, they too left her hanging. It suddenly clicked. She wasn't just being ignored, she was being outright cut off. Feeling both scared and annoyed, she fired off more texts with trembling fingers. Vanessa. Mark, stop acting like a kid. Vanessa. You look ridiculous. Vanessa. Seriously, this is petty. Vanessa. Go ahead and sulk, but don't expect me to wait around forever. But all she got back was a whole lot of nothingness. By day 4, Vanessa was hunched over at the kitchen table, gripping her phone tightly enough that her knuckles turned pale. She wrestled with the grim weight of the situation. Was he really not coming back? The more time passed, the sharper the pain of the truth dug into her. Reality dawned on her with all the subtlety of a slap. Mark was gone for good. She hadn't seen it coming at all. At first, she brushed off his absence, convincing herself, yeah, he left. Big deal. He'll come crawling back when he realizes no one's going to put up with him like I do. Then anger took over. He seriously thinks he can up and leave like that? She felt she deserved at least a word or an apology. It felt cruel, how he just vanished. Trying to cope, she spun stories for her friends about his crisis, insinuating he'd always been a bit unhinged, just showing concern. A few believed her, but most weren't buying it. Soon whispers floated around. At work, her co-workers gave her side glances, and her gym buddies were suddenly busy whenever she tried to meet up. The facade crumbled fast, leaving her feeling more isolated than ever. That's when real fear settled in, realizing she wasn't holding the reins anymore. Eventually, she did something drastic. She reached out to Mark's lawyer. The gruff voice on the other end was ready for her. Vanessa, right? It threw her off balance. Her heart pounded as she stuttered. Where is my husband? The response was ice cold. Ex-husband, actually. The slap of reality stung. You didn't read the email, I see. Her stomach dropped. What email? She barely managed. Check your inbox, the lawyer said, ending the call. Staring at her phone, Vanessa felt a chill wash over her. She took a deep breath and opened her email. Right there was a bold, unread message from Mark. Our divorce. Her pulse hammered as she read through brutal words. Filed, finalized, irreversible. Attached were pictures of her with another man, giggling, touching, kissing at a hotel. Her throat tightened. Mark had known everything all along, while she'd walked right into his trap. Her hands shook and she gasped for air. Mark had pulled the ultimate move, and she never saw it coming. Vanessa's hands shook as she reread the message. The words blurred, but their meaning was starkly clear. Her marriage was over, and every semblance of control she had was gone. The incriminating photos left no room for denial, capturing her with her secret lover, dates stamped boldly. Mark had been aware all along. Her stomach turned as she fought to keep herself upright against the kitchen counter, struggling to breathe. In a flurry of anger, she texted him, Mark, this isn't funny. Call me now. No response. She dialed his number, straight to voicemail. Tried again. Still nothing. He was dodging her. Rage made her jaw clench. You think you can just vanish on me? She wouldn't accept this. Grabbing her keys, Vanessa stormed out, refusing to be dismissed so easily. Vanessa decided to go straight to Mark's parents, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were turning white. She was hoping they'd take her side and be a bit sympathetic. But when she got there and knocked on the door, his mom didn't even let her inside. Instead, she just spoke through the screen. Go home, Vanessa. Vanessa was caught off guard, stuttering. What? I just need to talk. But Mark's mom cut her off with a firm look. There's nothing to discuss. Vanessa forced a nervous laugh, trying to lighten the mood. I get it. He's mad, but seriously, we're family, right? But his mom's voice turned icy. You were family. That statement hit Vanessa hard. Trying desperately to get through, she pleaded, This isn't Mark. You know he's not thinking clearly, right? But his mom's words were sharp. My son devoted years to you, and this is your response? Vanessa felt her throat tighten. You wrecked your marriage, Vanessa. You should live with the consequences, his mom said briskly before shutting the door in her face. Vanessa just stood there stunned. This wasn't how she envisioned things going. She thought they'd be on her side, feeling sorry for her. Even her friends seemed to be keeping their distance. Feeling upset, she got to her front doorstep, emotions bubbling over the top. Quickly, she fired off some texts to her friends, expecting full support. Can you believe this? Mark just took off with zero warning, she typed out angrily. You guys have to talk to him, make him see he's acting crazy. But as her phone buzzed with replies, her hopes started crumbling. Lana was the first to text back. Vanessa, maybe just let it be for now. Then Jessica added her 2 cents. He's got evidence, V. I'm not sure you're the victim here. Vanessa, stunned, sent back, Jessica, are you seriously taking his side? Jessica replied, We're not choosing sides. But be real. What did you think would happen? Vanessa, now frustrated, replied, Stop being so dramatic. Cheating happens in marriages all the time. At that, the message thread went dead silent. Within a minute, Michelle left the chat, followed by Jessica, then Lana. They all bailed, leaving Vanessa alone in the group chat. Seeing her friends turn away was a blow she couldn't handle. She tried calling Michelle, no answer. Then Jessica, straight to voicemail. The rumor mill had started turning, and it seemed nobody wanted anything to do with her anymore. The third hit came quickly, and at her job. A couple of days later, walking into the office, she felt things shift. The usual smiles and hellos were nowhere to be found, and there was tension in the air. Her boss avoided making eye contact. Co-workers were whispering and glancing her way. Even her typically chatty assistant was giving curt answers. By lunchtime, the reason became clear. Sitting in the break room, scrolling her phone, she stumbled upon a post from Mark's sister. It said, "When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time." Right beneath that post was a picture of Vanessa entering a hotel. Her heart fell. She anxiously opened the comments, reading things like, "Wow, some people just can't be loyal," and "Lucky escape for Mark." Vanessa went pale as her phone dropped from her hand, her entire body shaking. A colleague walked by, avoiding her gaze. She felt utterly naked and disgraced. Mark hadn't just left her, he'd shattered her reputation. By the week's end, Vanessa was backed into a corner. Her social life was in shambles, her reputation ruined, and Mark seemed untouchable. Clutching onto her last resort, she made up a fake crisis. With a shaky voice, she called Mark's attorney, injecting fake panic into her words. "Tell Mark it's an emergency. I think I might be pregnant." The lie left a bitter taste in her mouth. There was silence on the other end, then a dismissive chuckle from the lawyer. "Nice try. Maybe check your email more often." Then he hung up. Vanessa felt like her whole world had just dropped out from under her. She clicked open her emails and was met with a dreaded subject line, a request for a paternity test. Mark knew what she was up to. The understanding crashed down on her with a choked sob. Her plotting had backfired, and she only had herself to blame. Alone in her dim living room, she sat there staring at the emptiness of her wine glass. Once, the silence around her was comforting, a sign that she was in control, and Mark was just another predictable piece in her perfectly arranged life. But now the quiet felt oppressive, as if her home had turned into a mausoleum she'd built herself. Her phone lay untouched on the coffee table. It no longer served as the lifeline it once was. Friends who overlooked her betrayals now wanted nothing to do with her. Mark's entire family cut her off, and work had become a trial decorated with suspicious glances and hushed words. People who once envied her position now seemed to pity her collapse. And Mark, he had vanished, reappearing today with a message that sent a shiver through her. "Mark Davis wants to schedule a meeting." She couldn't tear her gaze from the words, her breath locked in her chest. He wanted to meet. First came the fury. How dared he want to have a conversation after weeks of freezing her out, leaving her life in tatters? But mixed with her anger was something even worse, an unwanted flicker of hope. She reasoned it was about having the upper hand, about saying the last word. Yet deep down, she longed to see if there was any salvageable part of their relationship. Their meeting spot was a quaint cafe on the other side of town. Vanessa made sure she got there early, deliberately. She wanted to sit at the table first, aiming to project control. But when Mark walked in, she got an unexpected jolt. Her stomach did a flip when she spotted him. He seemed different, like a better version of himself. Slick outfit, exuding confidence. His back straight, expression impossible to read. Neatly combed hair, precisely trimmed beard. He looked every bit like someone who had moved on, and suddenly her mouth felt dry. He sat in silence across from her, cool and composed. She waited him out, but his quiet tore at her patience. Finally, crossing her arms and forcing a grin, she broke the silence. "Stopped feeling sorry for yourself?" His lips moved, but it wasn't a smile. It was colder. "I never felt sorry, Vanessa," he replied. "I strategized." A chill shot through her, and she laughed sharply, bitterly. "All this over one tiny slip?" Mark almost seemed puzzled, just tilted his head. "One tiny slip?" She brushed it off with a shrug, leaning back. "Okay, maybe more, but really, people cheat, Mark. You're acting like I committed murder here." His jaw worked, but he stayed calm, much to her frustration. She wanted an outburst, some sign of his once passion, but he was steady. People cheat, right? He finally said, thoughtful. So tell me, Vanessa, how's that going for you? She froze. What's your point? He leaned in, setting his elbows on the table. Well, far as I can see, all your friends are gone. My family wants nothing to do with you, and your boss barely looks at you. Her throat tightened. Don't pretend you're some saint, she fired back. I was a good wife. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. There it was, the excuse, her scapegoat. She was ready for his eruption, expecting him to yell, but instead he smiled, not kindly, not sadly, but knowingly. You still don't understand, he said softly. Her stomach churned as his gaze drilled into hers, cold, resolved, final. I didn't walk away because you cheated, Vanessa. Perplexed, she opened her mouth. He slid back in his seat, crossing his arms over his chest. I left because you weren't worth staying for. Embarrassment crashed over her, and her fingernails dug into the table. Screw you, she spat. He chuckled lightly. Been there. Worst move of my life. Tears pricked her eyes, but she refused to blink. She wasn't giving him the satisfaction. There was one card left for her to play, one more attempt to regain control. Wetting her lips, she let her voice tremble just right. I miss you, she said. The words felt strange, but she was a master of a convincing show. I messed up, Mark, she murmured, stretching a hand across the table. Every day I wish I could undo it. Please don't let this be the end. In a fleeting moment, she sensed something shift in his gaze, but he pulled his hand back. His voice was unwavering. Vanessa, it's not me you miss, he said calmly. You miss being in control. Her heart sank at his words. You long for someone who tolerated your whims, made everything smooth, and forgave you over and over, no matter how often you hurt them. He moved closer. Well, newsflash, that guy isn't here anymore. She took a sharp breath. Enjoy your freedom, he added as he rose from his seat. There's going to be a lot of it. She sprang up. You can't just leave me like this. He gave her one last smile. I already have. And with that, he turned and walked away. She stood there motionless as reality hit her. This was genuinely the end. No more chances, no wins. Just her, on her own. And for the first time, Vanessa felt the full impact of what she had lost. Not just her marriage, or her status, or her influence. She had pushed away the one person who truly loved her, treating him as if he didn't matter. Now she was the one left alone.